Very good. Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Blanchard. I'm the interim town manager, and I'm calling to order the public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2024 sewer and water rates. And what I'm going to use here is a PowerPoint presentation, very similar, in fact, it's the same one that was presented for the past several years by the former town manager. And it's been titled An Easy to Understand Guide for Southbridge, Mass residents on how the rates are determined. So it's basically a simple formula. The formula is determined by a rate structure study based on research, but it contains fixed costs and variable costs to become the total cost that'll go into the water and sewer rates. So what is a fixed cost? A fixed costs are things like debt service, capital improvements, indirect costs that are fixed, such as building and administrating cost of accounts, since the services are contracted out. Other town departments may perform duties, contracts that we have with other companies that must be honored. A variable cost is any cost that's subject to change, such as utilities, our electricity costs, treatment chemicals and supplies, which are a big part of the cost for the water and sewer services, fuels such as gas, consumption rate, and of course overall consumption impacts the rate. The greater the consumption moderates the rate. A lower consumption actually causes the rate to increase because we still have many fixed costs to cover. And obviously individual households use different amounts of water and sewer services. So the current rate structure is based on changes in consumption and increases in costs. The fixed costs that have increased, as we mentioned earlier, we do have contracted services that operate these plants. Okay, so this is what I talked about in the fixed cost. There we go. So we decided or defined what's a fixed cost, what's a variable cost, and the current rate changes we talked about. Okay, so as I started to say, the contracted increases go through the service providers. So we use, for example, Whitewater to provide the operations for our water department and Veolia for the sewer department. We have contracts with them, and both of them increased 5% this year. There are state-mandated increase in regulations that may cost extra money, and debt payments on facilities and capital improvements are constant costs. The bottom line, as I said, the more you use, the more you pay. Okay, so this is the slide I really wanted. So for fiscal year 23, which goes from July 1st, 22 to June 30th, 2023, water consumption went up a little over 3.2%, and the year-to-date billed revenue was up just under 3%, 2.91%. For the sewer consumption, although consumption probably isn't the best way to term that, it's actually use, it's actually treated sewage that we're talking about. So the consumption went up just over 6%, and the billed revenue went up just a little bit over 5%. So the bottom line, as I said before, is the more you use, the more you pay. Okay, for the Southbridge single-family single-family utility usage, the usage per quarter comes to 1,400 cubic feet with a 5/8 inch meter. That's 114 gallons per day, or 10,472 gallons per quarter. Based on the current rates, the per quarter charge for the water rate would be just over $123. The current sewer rate is $161.19. If you have both water and sewer, you'd be paying $284.70. That would be $94 per month, or it goes down to roughly $3.09 per day. Now, the new rates that I'm proposing is a 1% increase for the water rates and a 1% increase for the sewer rates. And I'll get into that in a little more detail on the next slides. So that would increase the per quarter cost for the median single-family home if you had both water and sewer from $284.70 to $287.55. The monthly charge would go up just a little bit more, well, from $94.90 to $95.85, and it goes up roughly 3 cents per day. So I'll get back to that one, because I think the next thing I wanted to talk about really was the overall budgets, to compare how the budgets went up to create that increase that I'm recommending. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I have a slide here that shows what the 2024 water budget and sewer budgets are. In the meantime, we do have a couple of public members here. If you have any questions while I'm doing this, by all means, feel free to ask them, and I'm going to try to find the budget slide. Okay, well, I'll just have to review them, I guess. I've got them right here. Okay. So the water budget for FY24, the total budget is $4,291,925. The operations portion of that is $1,976,420. The capital budget that was approved was $700,500. The debt service was $839,134. The indirect costs were $675,871, and that's actually the cost that goes back to the town for the administrative services that we provide to support the activities of the water department in this case, and in the sewer department on the next slide. And then we also budget for reserves of $100,000. So this is less than 0.1%. It's actually 0.001% increase. So it's basically, it's only an increase of $6,098, which is almost level funding the water budget for the year. On the sewer budget, the FY24 budget is $5,020,115. The operations portion is $2,266,112. The capital budget was $618,000. The debt service is $1,359,647. The indirect costs were $676,356. The reserves were $100,000. So that was a 1.8% increase over the FY23 budget, or a $91,121 budget increase. So let me see if I can get back to the next slides that we need here. Okay, so this slide, it simply provides the information on what the 1% increase will be on the water rates, because the water rates vary based on consumption. As we said before, you know, the more you use, the more you pay. And in addition to that, we have base charges based on the meter charges as well. So this slide shows what the new rates would be for the water. And the next slide, I hope, will show the sewer, you know, which it does. Okay. So the last slide it shows shows the sewer fee changes, and I have not adjusted these. This is something that you know, could probably be reviewed by the next town manager. It mentions here that the service fees have not been adjusted in apparently over 10 years. So I think a study could be done to see if those need to be adjusted. So just kind of a summary on my decision to increase both the water and sewer rates by 1%. Because the water rate really budget didn't go up, we could say that we don't really need to increase that. But we know that that's really just a choice of what we decided to put in this year's budget. We know that inflation is still here. We have costs going up. We know electricity will be going up and things like that. So rather than have a year where we have no increase and we have to do more of an increase in the following year, I felt it was more prudent to have a 1% increase to keep, that going in the right direction for the fact that we know costs are going up. On the sewer rate, because we put more into the budget, we could have increased that more, but we do have $1.4 million in retained earnings in the sewer department. So I felt that it was, rather than go to 2% on that, it was reasonable to go to the 1%. So that's the logic behind my recommendation for the 1% increase in the water and 1% in the sewer. So with that, I'll take any questions we have from the public. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Town Manager. Roland LaRochelle, Briarwood Avenue.
Yes.
As a homeowner, longtime homeowner, born and raised in this town, you are absolutely 110% correct when you talked about inflation and things go up. But that goes up for every one of us. And when you look at the two people sitting here that are on fixed incomes, where do we get the money? Now, that being said, thank you for the presentation. My opinion, and this is my opinion only, the service fees that haven't been looked at, well, that's only if you add. So that really doesn't have much to do with the current pay.
Good point.
I agree 100%. You should pay for what you use. So if I use more, I should pay more. The question being is that in the confusion that I have as a ratepayer, I sat at Councilor Marchetti's meeting on both April 20th and May 1st, and that's when the budgets were placed on the table to go to council for water and sewer.
Right.
May 1st was the last one. Here we are, 20th of July. When the thing that I'm confused about, the ratepayers and especially the single-family owners have no assistance. I can't deduct because I have a duplex, and I can't deduct half of it for my tenant.
Right.
I have no help. So it's all about my checkbook. My checkbook, like everybody else's out there, is limited to income. So when I look at this, I'm very confused because since last year, we have gained in this town a commercial water usage, which is 5 K Street. We have gained a commercial water usage, the old Mary E. Wells School. So that will relate to your slide on how big the mains go in and how much they pay, and that's commercial property. Even though it's residential, but because of the residential, it's all on the size of the main. So we have added money that is going to be going into the checkbook for the water and sewer. When I look as a taxpayer, and I look at a $4.25 million budget, and the 1% increase to the taxpayer, which is the stockholders and shareholders of this community, I'm kind of taken back to the point where at $4.25 million, nobody could find $6,000 within that budget to level fund it. And for lack of a better term, but things are getting difficult, throw the taxpayer a bone. Level funded, no increase, means a lot to a taxpayer. At the same token, a little over $5 million in the budget for the sewer and $91,000. We couldn't find $91,000 within the budget. But yet, at a lot of the subcommittee meetings, prior to the end of the year, there's money transfers to do this, that, and the other thing because it was left over. My concern, and I've watched, I'm not going to speak for him, but I watched Councilor Marchetti as a watchdog. If we can change this money and move this money around because we have it left over, here we are in the new budget season, and why did we change it? Why didn't they save it to keep this level funded for the taxpayer? These are concerns that I think come up generally, and as a taxpayer with A 1% increase to me is a slap in the face to the taxpayer that somewhere within these multi-million-dollar budgets, we cannot find this money to level fund it. This has been going on every year. If I remember speaking to the water supply, now that the metering station in Charlton by the old Ed Stearns is online, everybody past that metering station is paying at the commercial rate, not the residential rate that we pay. So where's this money going? I understand it's going to reduce costs, but when you're talking $6,000 in one budget and 91 less than $100,000 in another one, and they're $4 and $5 million respectively, I think there's room to find it and do the taxpayer a service to give them a break.
Okay,
Because all of our money, all of our cost of operation has gone up as well. And we don't have the right to tell the town of Southbridge, give me a break on my taxes so I can pay my bills.
Okay.
But yet, we need to raise to pay the bill. So that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have anything to say?
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for your excellent presentation. Had a little problem with the
A
slides.
little technical.
First of all, I just want to point out that in previous presentations, the more you use, the less you pay. It's not the more you use, the more you pay.
Really?
If you use less, you're going to pay more because they have to collect more money to help
Wait a
pay their
minute.
bills. So I think that's a little backwards. Now, on June 26, 2023, the town council meeting, the town council voted to transfer $750,000 of retained earnings. $660,000 was to the town's water stabilization funds.
Right.
About $90,000 to the Charlton IMA payment. And what are retained earnings? Well, retained earnings it's sort of like a surplus. If it was a private company, it would be like the profits that they make after they've paid their bills. So, in other words, we are overcharging the residents of Southbridge and Charlton about $750,000. So, with that kind of overcharging, I think it is time that we give the residents of Southbridge a break on their water bills. I think that with the amount that was in the budget, as you described it, in the water budget, I would be willing to bet you that you'll have almost the same amount of retained earnings next year. That's money that you've overcharged the residents. And in the sewer department, when we had our budget hearings, the manager of the sewer department said he cannot even spend all of the capital budget money that we are giving him. He doesn't even have the time to spend it all. So I think that both the water and sewer department have plenty of funds available that you could level fund this budget this year. And when I look at all the funds that we do have on hand, for instance, the sewer enterprise fund, 1.4 million. The water enterprise fund, almost 1.2 million. The water stabilization fund, with that money that we transferred this year, 1.3 million. We have $1 million in capital stabilization, and we also have about 12.5 million in our capital budget. That's money that over the years has been set aside for projects within the town that has to date has not been spent. I think we could find plenty of money so that we don't have to keep raising their water and sewer rates. I know that in the capital budget for water, all the things that they want to spend their money on, and this is only going back to last year, so some of this money may have been spent by now, but at that time, there was almost $4 million in capital budget money sitting there that had not been spent. And on the sewer side, there was a little over $6 million of money in capital budgets that they had not spent. So I'm sure that we could find the funds. If they need funds for capital budgets, I don't think that a 1% increase for the residents is necessary, so that so that they don't run out of funds, or that they can fix anything that needs fixing over at those two departments. So my suggestion to you this year would be no increase in the water and sewer
Okay.
rates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, I understand your point, and I appreciate what you're saying. The only thing I would like to point out, though, is that on those appropriations, both for the water and the sewer, even though they may not have been spent, they are, committed to capital needs that at some point the town, decided they needed. So, I mean, that money is, if not gone, because it isn't completed, it is committed, and we do have future ones coming forward. But I
Well,
think
some
you do
of
make
it's
a good
going back to
point.
2016, so if they haven't used it by now, I doubt they're going to use it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Great. If not, I'll close the public hearing, and I appreciate your attendance. Thank you very much. Thank you.